First of all, I'd like to express my thanks to the Dr. Shyam Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation. Dr. Mukherjee was one of the great heroes of Bharat. And I think, he is responsible, frankly, for ensuring that Bharat remained in as undamaged a form as possible after what happened, the partition of 1947, and of course, what happened in Kashmir, the state where he met his very untimely end. He was an individual who devoted every waking moment of his life for the welfare of the country. He spent all his time thinking about what could promote the welfare of the country and the people. Truly an individual who's a role model, not only for us in Bharat, but across the world. And from that point of view, this foundation carrying forward his legacy, carrying forward his message, and carrying forward his name. It's a great honor to be speaking here. I would like to say that, yes, we are talking about women's development. We are talking about empowerment of the poor. The most important thing, I think, is the realization that we are not India, but we are Bharat. Now, I'm a person who, frankly, I do believe that there are, time frames in which changes need to be made. And for example, I do believe that Sanskrit is going to be the global language, but it's going to take a while. And in between, you have other international linked languages, and they're helpful. So, but the transition to Bharat has occurred from 2014 to 2024. It's the most remarkable thing that some of us, that I think all of us have witnessed, the transition from the idea of India to the idea of Bharat. And why do I say that? I say that because one of the important traits of any successful innovator, of any successful explorer, of any successful individual who has done much for society is confidence in oneself and confidence in one's mission. Those two intersecting lines of confidence need to come together, and they need to shine very brightly. The fact is, and I'd like to say very clearly that I am not in favor of just wholesale saying, no, let's switch on to Bharat from India, let's forget about India, etc. That's going to take time. If we are lucky in terms of our governance, it will take only about 7 to 10 years. If we are not lucky, it may take longer. But the reality of the situation is that when you talk of India, what are we talking about? Even assuming that India was during the time of Alexander, the Greek conqueror, I think 327 BC. Sumit will check me because he's very good at these things. I think it's 327 BC. Even if you go back in past and say that is when India, the fact is, what is telling is the fact that the name India was at the time of a foreign conqueror. And the name India was retained by the last colonial power that was there in the subcontinent, the British. Whereas Bharat, so instinctively, and let us be honest, perception, psychology, these are all various things that are extremely important in driving ability, in driving potential. And India, when you talk about India, subconsciously, there is the realization that this is the name given to a country that was not free. When you talk of Bharat, it's a name given to a country with an amazingly glorious tradition and with an amazingly wonderful people. And I think what we have seen from 2014 onwards is the realization of the potential of the people of Bharat. Now, I would like to say that is one of the fundamentals. The second fundamental is we are seeing potential on the basis of the doctrine of Sanatana Dharma. And Sanatana Dharma is a doctrine that is universal. It is a way of life. It's a way of thinking. And it's a way that even that combines different, if I may say so, great names in Indian history. You had Mahatma Gandhi saying, for example, just in the previous century, let all the windows of my house be open and let all the winds and all the light blow from there so that I get the benefit of all of that. Sanatan Dharma is a universal concept. And that universality we are seeing in the policies of this government. Yes, those who are nostalgic about the fact that systematically the idea of India, which was an enslaved country, the idea of India, which was a disempowered people, is being replaced by the idea of Bharat, an empowered country with a supercharged people. They will be saying all kinds of things. But the reality is, this government has been, in the best sense of the term, secular. I know that's not a very popular word because we use the word secular in the sense in which it is there in India. I want to use the word secular in the sense it is there internationally and in the sense that we in Bharat should see it as a reflection of Sanatan Dharma. And when you look at the policies of this government, you look at policies that are applicable across the board. It doesn't matter which faith you are born into. It doesn't matter what region. It doesn't matter your diet, your language, your lifestyle. That policy is there for you. And I think that is the Sanatani spirit, the dharma of Sanatan Dharma carried into action in the dharma of governance. So when we're talking about women, for example, let us not forget the elemental concept of Shakti. What is the elemental concept of Shakti? It's a concept to which we all bow to, and Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee bowed to. And that concept is feminine. So when we talk about empowering women, we're actually talking about empowering ourselves. When we empower our mothers, we are empowering ourselves. When we empower our wives, we are empowering ourselves. When we empower our sisters, we are empowering ourselves. We cannot be empowered. We cannot be self-empowered without empowering the women as well, and without the women thereby empowering us. It's like when you're in an aircraft, and then people tell you about the oxygen masks. And what is told? Put the oxygen mask on first before you try and put it on even a small child. So empowering of women comes before every other kind of empowerment, and that has been completely realized by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which is why he has been talking from the start of women-led development. Secondly, the immense treasure that we have is not gold, it's not silver. A lot of gold was looted, a lot of silver was looted. It is the Indian people, and the Indian people who have been transformed into the Bharatiya people. Even as the Indian people, there was a treasure. But that potential was not recognized. That potential was not trusted. You had a situation in which, for example, if you are not in the government, you are regarded as a lesser form of citizen. Only governments could set up certain industries. Defense, for example, only Sarkar, and of course foreign companies, not domestic companies, not domestic private companies. So you had that distinction between the people of Bharat, called the people of India, and that distinction was that they were really not capable of self-government. It was a very Churchillian kind of thinking. It was, over the years, you had people who articulated more diplomatically than Churchill. And regrettably, in many of our laws, which are regressive, in many of our penalties, which are regressive, many of those laws have been dispensed with, thank God. Many of those penalties have been dispensed with. One of the things that really struck me about Prime Minister Modi in the very first weeks of his coming as Prime Minister was that he said, you are a citizen of Bharat, you have the right to attest your own certificate. You need not run to a gazetted officer and get your certificate attested. You, as a citizen of Bharat, have the right to attest your own certificates, and we, the government, believes in you in a way no government, even after 1947, has believed in you. I think that is the major transformation that we are seeing. The idea of India being replaced by the idea of Bharat. And the sense of self-empowerment that is there in the people of India. Today, you've got roughly 700 to 800 million people who have access to the internet. Now, the internet has got good points and bad points. Everything has got good points and bad points, so has technology. But I think the third term, and again, as I said, I'm not going to be an astrologer and predict what's going to happen in the election. Certainly, I have made my preference clear. I would like to see a third term and a fourth term for the present government under its present leadership. But if there is that kind of going to be a third term, you are going to see this empowerment on steroids because the foundation has been laid over the last 10 years. And I see these 10 years as laying the first 5 years as clearing the debris of what we may call the idea of India. The next 5 years, building the foundation for the idea of Bharat. And the next 5 years are going to see the full flowering of the idea of Bharat. Now, I don't want to have a long lecture. I think, even my students, I don't think they would like me having a long lecture. I would like to have a conversation. I'd like to hand over the floor to an individual who's very much confident of Bharat, very much confident of the future of Bharat. And I would only like to say, I am also confident in the future of Bharat because I see young people, Sumit, you are young compared to me, and your friend is almost a child compared to me. I see the confidence in your faces. I see the self-confidence in your faces. And I think that is what is so important in today's Bharat. Dr. Mukherjee would have been delighted had he been around to see that, because he was confident in the future of Bharat. And he fought against those who were not confident. He paid a very heavy price for that through circumstances that are yet to be revealed. And this is another part of the colonial legacy. A lot of information is still kept concealed from the people because, we have a governance bureaucracy that does not believe the people have the right to know. Whereas people like me believe Indian people may not have the right to know because they're colonized. The Bharatiya has a right to know, the right to know. And I'm very certain the third term, you're going to see many of these mysteries completely unraveled. And I think the sooner that happens, the better. I just want to say, I want to pause here. Let's have a conversation. And I just want to say that this is why I am very happy. I'm very happy that, we are all born Bharatiyas. And I was very happy to be born in a free country, but a free country that could not shed the debris of the colonial heritage. And I don't mean language. I'd like to say very clearly, I'm not sure it's going to be very popular with everybody who's listening to this. I am the individual who basically gave the concept of the 21st century Anglosphere. I said, forget about you, United States. It's India at the center of the Anglosphere. At that point in time, when I wrote that, certainly the debris was being cleared and it was still India. It was not Bharat. So you must remember that. It is now Bharat. It was not Bharat at that point in time. But I'd like to say the English language is a weapon of war. A war against poverty, a war against want, and especially a war so that internationally we are known throughout the world. And globally, whether it's in tech or whether it's in other fields, we can outcompete against the whole world. So I would only like to say from that perspective, there is nothing antithetical to saying that English should continue for some more time. And as long as it's international link language, until it is overtaken by Sanskrit, which one day it will be overtaken as the international link language, and then it will give way. But I'd like to say that I'm not speaking as an Indian anymore. I am speaking as a Bharatiya. And I can only say that this has come to me only in the last 2 or 3 years of what we are seeing now, of this, let us say from around 2021 to 2024. And I think you can say that the G20 summit, the G20 presidency was, in my mind, and the geopolitics came into India in 1998, 99. My university introduced it. The G20 summit was a completely unique experience because the entire G20 concept was transformed from a question of how much income do you have, how much in the wallet do you have, to the people that you have, and to the equality of people. And Prime Minister Modi succeeded in making it the G21 with the African Union now as part of the G20. India succeeded in showing the world what Sanatan Dharma is all about. We were able to shame a particular country, China, with the assistance of a particular country run by a president who's very close to Prime Minister Modi. His name begins with P. I'm not going to, I like jigsaw puzzles, so I'm not going to mention. And the country's name begins with R. That country was very clear in telling a country which name begins with C and whose leader's name begins with X, look, please don't be silly. India is an important country. Agree to this declaration. Make it a completely unanimous declaration. And to the shock and surprise of those who are obsessed with the idea of India, we got a unanimous declaration from a fractured G20. We healed the fracture through the Sanatani spirit. And I'd like to say that was when I realized that Bharat had arrived. And I'd only like to say what we saw in the budget. Nirmala Sitharaman, I think she's an outstanding finance minister. She's a true, if I may say so, child of Bharat. And she's been an outstanding associate of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And I'd like to say that it was a remarkable budget. But I'd only like to point out, it was remarkable because there was nothing political in the budget. Everybody was expecting slashing of taxes. Off the record, I believe slashing of taxes is important. I believe slashing of GST rates is important. I believe raising of GST slabs is important. And I'm very sure all this is going to come about. But I was paradoxically happy that there was no slashing of taxes. Why? Because it showed that this government is not concerned about winning elections. This government is concerned about the people. This government is concerned about the fundamentals. And that means that is the only way you can really help the people. We've had any number of governments who are looking only at politics while defining the budget, who are within the self-imposed constraints of the colonial era legacy. This government has liberated itself from that legacy and is not looking at politics, is looking at economics. And to my mind, that was the real transformation that I saw in this particular budget. The budget of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman worked out under the direction of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Thank you.